Good evening, everyone. This is Dave COFELT. I'm out of Colorado, and I'm going to fill in for Randy Shannon as moderator on this program of 42 Action. This is for entertainment purposes only. There are no attorneys. We don't give legal advice. We are looking for remedies from one another to support one another for the criminal activities that government officials are putting on us and wants us to accept, and it's totally unacceptable. For myself, for those that don't know who I am, I ran into some problems. They were problems dealing with my liberty stolen, the right to work, stolen on fraud. My wife come down with MS. She needed to call OSHA for accommodations. The day OSHA completed their investigation, I myself was terminated for committing a gaming violation. There's no violation committed, and nothing on record I ever committed. I proved my case. The Colorado Division of Civil Rights illegally dismissed my case and forced me into a district court under a civil matter if I wanted to pursue my charges. I did pursue that, and I did get a lawyer, never being in court before. My lawyer never subpoenaed the records from DARET to even know how to support me. I come to the judge ends up telling the judge rules the jury's not going to be allowed to hear the spousal discrimination charge. Spousal discrimination charge is in Colorado revised statute, and I've searched and searched and searched. I don't find a Colorado or a spousal discrimination charge anywhere in the country, so there's no precedent that I can even find. With that being said, with the jury not being able to hear the charge, only wrongful termination, working in the state of Colorado of right to work statutes, the jury threw the case out after a 3-day jury trial, with all my witnesses coming up to the stand that I never committed any gaming violation. The case got thrown out anyways. I come to find out 2 years later, after trying to figure out what happened, that I was in front, the judge was an imposter. He had no judicial authority. He was not a district court judge. He never filed his oath of office as required under Colorado Constitution, Article 12, Section 8, 9, and 10. And I found that out in July of 2010. Lo and behold, in May of 2012, I come to find out after filing with all the legal authorities, the judicial, trying to think all I filed with, the Attorney General, the Sheriff's Department, the DA. I filed with all these folks with no one doing anything for me. And then I come to find out in May of 2012, the Secretary of State forged the judge's county oath of office as a district court judge. When I found that out, I went through the same process. I went to all the legal authorities again, and lo and behold, after a year and a half and being interviewed by the FBI 4 times, no one has still done anything for me. So again, this is my story. This is what I've been through, and the government is just acting like a bunch of thugs and wants us to accept this in the land of the free. This is not the land of the free. They have caused nothing but they've only looked out for themselves. They haven't protected the people for the oath they've taken an oath to protect as civil servants. They serve us, and we are to reclaim our right as bosses. So with that being said, I built a website on Veterans Day after reading my son's tribute to veterans. My son's in the Army for 18 years. And I thought to myself, all these young men and women abroad fighting for our freedoms and liberties, how in the world is the government allowed to steal them over here at home? I'm perplexed about that whole thing. So I built a website. And you can look at all my evidence. The state has it, the feds have it, they all have it, and I'm getting my story out there on the net for people to realize what is really going on with corrupt government. My website is www.spousaldiscriminationcoverup.com. With that being said, we have Dan. Dan, are you there?
Yeah.
Dan, thanks for being on the call tonight. Dan's going to be talking about some remedy as far as people in debt. And Dan, I'm going to turn this call over to you, and I'm just going to sit back and listen.
Okay. All right. So basically, about almost 2 years ago, I was in a car accident, and I think I was most probably thinking just like everybody else, you know, I don't necessarily want to trust my case with an attorney, even though the other person who was traveling, because they definitely weren't driving, that's for sure, or in the terms of commerce, that term driving, they were traveling in the correct terms, and unfortunately there was some negligence there, I guess, with the idea of, you know, the roads having traffic lights being red and green. Ultimately, the peace officer didn't write any citation because they didn't witness anything because they weren't there to witness the accident. But as we all know, in a lot of cases, we'll get a citation or a ticket, which is really just an invitation to appear, even though the officer or peace officer didn't actually see it. But in this case, none of that happened. I think this peace officer was actually maybe had a pretty good career, maybe didn't pressure a lot of people and stuff like that. I interviewed the peace officer afterwards to kind of get some things on tape and stuff, but ultimately I started studying. I heard about people out there standing up for our rights. I went to some seminars, and I found out that there's a lot of things to be able to study and know versus feeling like we're at the mercy of just, you know, letting, you know, a bar-carded attorney or just even, you know, a lawyer try to handle our own cases. And besides, I mean, I'd say for most of my life, I always wanted to know what was going on planet Earth anyways. So I started studying, and, you know, I think like everybody else, we find ourselves kind of swamped trying to make sure we're learning everything we need to learn, and trying to find time to even study what we need to study so that way we can try to prevail in our cases. And I think that's really challenging for most people to do. So over the course of, I'd say, almost a couple of years now, I found calls like this, and there's other calls out there as well too. And I'm sure a lot of us here on the call tonight know that there's plenty of calls going on out there, and then plenty of people out there standing up for our rights. Just not necessarily enough good judges out there doing the right thing. But obviously enough good judges out there doing the right thing to kind of keep things as balanced as they are, to say that, not to say that things are balanced right now, because things are definitely out of whack, but we just gotta keep in mind that, you know, there is a lot of positive going on out there, and each and every one of us contributes to that positive, no matter how small it is, even if we're just studying, because at some point in time that studying is going to turn into action. That being said, my intention is that I found out that, you know, even after studying everything that I've studied, I'm not going to be able to handle my accident case on my own. There's a lot of administrative remedy process to it. Sure, I've learned enough to write my own affidavit, but I met a gentleman from Oregon just the other day who attended a little meeting that I had with a fellow student that I met at a 42 conference here recently, and he didn't even know how to write a basic affidavit, which is most people. I mean, I didn't even know what an affidavit was. I mean, the term was so alien to me, you know, 2 years ago, I couldn't even tell you. I was like, you know, what is that? You know, I wouldn't have been able to say. So, my point in sharing all this is simply finding out that, you know, it takes a lot of time to, you know, handle your own case. And, you know, a lot of people don't have time and they don't have money, but I think sometime at some point we'll all come to that crossroads where we got to decide whether or not we need to study or if we really need to try to find, you know, a person who is studied in the law, a lawyer, or someone who is, you know, a counselor at law that is loyal to the, you know, Constitution and the Bill of Rights versus, you know, loyal to, you know, an illegal monopoly. And I think that's where studying allows us to be able to, you know, to be able to try to find someone that can actually help us out and still keep our rights involved in the bigger picture and not trample on our rights at the same time. So with that being said, I've paid attention to a lot of groups all around the country over the past couple of years now, well, almost 2 years, like one and 8/10. Coming up here February would be actually the March would be my official 2 year. And by doing that, I've seen a lot of activity all around the country. One thing that I saw is that there are some groups, some people out there doing administrative remedy process for people, and I've met some people, and I've worked with some of those people to help do the administrative process that's needed, and just the basics, like say a lawful notification letter or something like that. But what I found along the way is that it seems like there's really not, it's not like you can go to 7-Eleven or Walmart or somewhere and just, get some kind of administrative remedy, someone to help you out in your case. So I was paying attention to a group. They have a website. It's called Living Free and Clear, and there's another website, What Lies in Your Debt. And TJ Mars does some promotions there. And I know TJ promotes a lot of different things, but this one in particular is a website called Financial Halo, and they've got a bunch of different administrative remedy services available. One's going to be a debt service. One's going to be a tax service. One's going to be a foreclosure service. Looks like they've got the credit score service for looks like a credit repair. And I'm saying it looks like because this whole website's in a pre-beta stage right now. It's not even fully functional. I signed up for this just because it's still free to sign up, I think, until January 31st. But I would like to go through the process, obviously, and validate and verify the services. I know one for me that I'd like to check out is this credit score thing, just because I know after the accident, the good credit number that I did have obviously just went totally south because I couldn't afford to keep up with anything anymore. So, until I'll have an opportunity to really check all these things out, I'm not saying, hey, let's go do this, but there are a lot of people out there that don't have time to study and do have the financial means to be able to pay for these services. And if you're an individual who has, a little bit of time and can study, but not enough money to be able to afford someone to do it, then you're kind of like me. I was in the same boat. I can't really afford to pay anyone to do any of my work for me. So I'm basically forced to study whether I like it or not. But what I'm not forced to do is just sit around and not do anything about it either. So I was like, well, I can sign up for this. I can check it out, validate and verify it for myself, and promote it, and just keep on, telling people until January 31st. This thing's free to sign up for. So what I told Randy what we would do is promote the website on the basis of, it's still in pre-beta. I haven't had time to validate it and verify it, and that's what it's going to take before we really know, whether or not, this is just another website to come along and take advantage of people, or if they really intend to really help people out to, get rid of their tax debt like they've talked about in some of the videos. And there is going to be a webinar this Saturday, so I know y'all can just send an email to Randy to the 42 Action, to the info at 42 Action contact email. And Dave, I know we'll need to get that correct email there. I know I'm not saying everything right. But we'll send an email in over to Randy, so that way we can find out the actual webinar time and everything for this Saturday for the Financial Halo. And that's really going to do a better job of what I could do of explaining everything. But I think the cool thing about this is, if you can imagine looking at a website and seeing 8 different services being offered for administrative remedy, that'll help out people that are in a last-minute bind and don't know what to do versus, and this is just my hope, instead of having to face, hiring an attorney that they don't know, hopefully they can hire one of these service companies to actually do an administrative remedy for them and help them to avoid the whole court process. That's my hope. Obviously, I still have to validate and verify all this, and I'm learning this as I go along, but I'm promoting it just because, A, we're in the whole thing with the financial halo, and I don't own that company. But, we still need to validate and verify it, and while it's still in pre-beta, they're allowing people to sign up for free just as affiliates. There's some basic terms and conditions just for using the website, which is at the site, but you don't actually have to agree to the terms and conditions while you're signing up. You just agree to use the terms and conditions if you use the website. So I think that's a safe play for just signing up and locking yourself into the free position versus like after January 31st, they're saying that it's going to be $149 for the sign up and $99 per year just to maintain. So it's definitely something worth checking out. And I know let's see, Dave, do you want me to give out the link now, or do you want to do it a little later during the call?
If you can give out the link now, if you like.
Yeah, let's see. I just got to scroll.
If you need to pull it up, that's perfectly fine.
It'll only take me a few seconds here.
Is gentleman from Michigan on the phone? Ted, are you on the phone? Is anybody having any issues they'd like to bring to the floor? Anybody have any remedy they want to share? Okay. Does anyone care?
No, silent can be good.
I'm still trying to get into the board. I haven't been able to access the board yet, so I apologize for that. I'm just having a technical problem of some sort. So, Chris, are you there?
I am here.
How are you doing, kind sir?
Very well. Typing away, posting some things, trying to help people out. I'm on the, let's see, what website am I on right now? It's the Activist Post, and I'm reading about a creepy new Disney RFID bracelet to allow park mascots and who else to greet your child by name. Won't the pedophiles, child sex traffickers, molesters, perverts, and demons be excited by this concept? All they got to do is get a RFID reader, and they'll know your child's name and say, "Oh, aren't you Johnny? Your mom sent me to get you. There's been a problem at home. Let's go now quick." She said, "Hurry and bring you home." And then they'll be gone, thanks to the advancement of techno-crazy individuals.
Did anybody see that, speaking of that, did anybody see that video, that YouTube video of the sheriff arrested the guy for going to school to take his special needs child out of school with all the cars lined up? It's a 6-minute video.
I think I saw something to that effect, and these are things that many people don't grasp the significance of, but there's a concept called lex loci parente, the law, the local law of the parent, where the state or the state's officers or entities, the schools, act as a parent while the children are in their custody. Although it's a mere custodial parentage, and it doesn't supersede the rights of the parent. The parent has the right to take their children out at any time they wish, although when they remove their children from school before time, the school loses their precious funds, their lucrative funds or money that they get for each child attendance. And, of course, if they're special needs, they get extra funds. Under the Department of Health and Human Services, Title 4 and 5 acts that give the states money to help maintain medically disadvantaged and other learning disabled children as special needs. In fact, you'll find that DCFS has a tendency to want to deem every child as having special needs so they can get the increased beneficium the state receives for making cash cows and taking these children into their alleged custodial care under the Protect the Children scam plan, where they use it to kidnap children to break up families so the state can profit by the money that they receive from these beneficium from the whole Socialist Slavery Act.
Hello, this is Scotty from New York. Somebody was mentioning about a chat about 5 minutes ago. Can you tell me where I can find that at? I didn't get that in the mail that I got the second time I'm on this call.
What did you need, Scotty?
Somebody was just mentioning about a chat. Is there a chat board to go with this conversation? What?
Yeah, that would have been Dan, I think.
Well, I don't know if it's a chat, Scotty.
I think he did a call or a seminar maybe on the, you're talking about the Halo?
Right, yeah. Now, Saturday, there's going to be a, forgive me, y'all, I'm not perfect at this. We'll see. There's going to be a webinar. I got to figure out where the link is. I think what I'm going to need to do is send Randy the link and then everybody that needs that link. I don't have it right here.
Oh, chat board live with this phone call. That's what I was asking, not that.
Okay, good.
So, okay. What's this educational workshop? Want to comment on that a little?
Yeah, I can comment on that a little bit. We need to. This is Dave, by the way. Regarding the workshop, we need to band together. We need to figure out some type of action plan collectively across this country where we can hold these government officials accountable for their actions, just as they would hold us accountable for our actions. I was talking to a gentleman last night out of Washington, and that's exactly what he told me. We need to pull together and figure out how to do this. And one of the places you can go is National Liberty Alliance, that is really growing in leaps and bounds, and this is where a lot of people are, where we can band together. We have to start off at the county level. We can't go to the top down. We got to start from the bottom up. Starting from the bottom up, we need to get involved on the ground floor, locally, by county, and that's what the National Liberty Alliance is. What they're looking to do is get together to have us all unite, so that we can get our common law grand juries out there, where it's a fourth-legged government to hold government officials accountable. And that's what common law grand juries were designed for to begin with.
You're precisely correct. John DARET and his group with the National Liberty Alliance is one group that's working to restore the common law grand juries. They're supposed to be the fourth non-governmental branch of government, where the people who created the government are supposed to have some oversight, supervisory capacity over their hirelings, their agents and actors who work for the people, allegedly, although they seem to have thinking they've risen above the people and they're now our masters instead of our subjects or our employees. Also,
well, you both right out of my mouth. I found him the same time as I found this call. It's literally like the same day. And, yeah, I'm very impressed with what he's doing. I missed his call on Monday. At 2 minutes to 9, I got a job. I had to leave. And I listened to about an hour of it yesterday. But I haven't. Yeah, I mentioned him on the call when I called for my first time last week. It was in your email last week. This week, there's not a piece about him, and I don't see about the interrogatories that were mentioned last week, because I wanted to ask about that, and then all of a sudden the call ended. And so I'm still trying to figure out what you people are about. I understand what he's doing with the grand jury, although I don't see what he's going to do if the sheriff doesn't help him. But I missed the call on Monday. But, yeah, I'm very impressed with what he's doing. I'm very, very impressed. I've only sent him about a week and a half ago, maybe 2 weeks.
Well, there are several different groups that are all bifurcated, separated, and not aligned with one another, and that's really where the power lies, is in the people coming together as a unified group with multiple voices, because they make more noise than a small group with a few voices. And
I'm a group, and I make a lot of noise.
Well, some of us make a little noise. We are local political activists and show up at our boards of commissions, our PUC meetings, our city council meetings, and we call out the bad actor officios on the carpet. And generally those things are recorded and videoed and are able to be called up by anybody who wants to search them out on the Internet. We've recently had a couple of successes here in the Las Vegas area with rolling back a couple of the insidious provisions of the NDAA, the National Defense Authorization Act, and we also held back a multiple...
That's the Patriot, right? That's the Patriot Act, right?
The Kill a Patriot Act, that's it.
Yeah, National Defense Authorization Act, Patriot Act, same one and the same, correct?
Well, you might want to take note that that comes originally from the title, oh, I just missed it.
All right, 42?
No.
Mary, who's the one? Somebody has a great...
Title 18, 2358. It's the National Defense Authorization Act of 1961, also known as the Strom-Thurmond National Defense Authorization Act. Strom-Thurmond was the former Grand Dragon of the Ku Klux Klan. And it's 10-2358, not 18. 10 United States Code 2358. And that particular act was basically concocted by Prescott Bush. And Prescott Bush, of course, was one of the founders of the Union Bank of New York. It was a pipeline for funds from supporters of the Nazi movement. Of course, that's the Ashkenazis or the Bolshevik movements in Nazi Germany. And there was also FDR, Franklin Delano Roosevelt, a.k.a. Rosenfeld.
Hearst, the paper guy. Yeah, Patty Hearst, all of them. Yeah.
If I'm having a hard time getting enough volume out of you to respond to your observation or question.
No, I'm just babbling along with you. But, yeah, so we're talking the same Patriot Act that they tried to pass after the 93 World Trade Center event and then did it after the second World Trade Center event and then just refreshed it like 2 years ago?
Well, those are all subsequent progeny of the initial act. The initial one was 10-2358. They have been reiterations. They have been reiterations that have come since then, 2001, I think, and then the recent one Obama did in 2012, I think it was. But those are all piggybacks on the original act that was put up by the reasonless Congress back then. Of course, it had an evil twin sister that was State Department Bulletin Pamphlet number 7277, which put us all under UN control, without telling us, of course. And so that's what I can tell you about that part.
The gentleman from New York.
Yes.
You wanted to know what it is we do here. Where you want to go to is 42action.org. There's all kinds of resources on there for you to educate yourself with. And what we're here for is to support and educate one another. That's the reason of banding together and having these type of calls, so we can find out who's having problems, what kind of issues they're going through, how has the government not protected them or taken advantage of them or not do whatever they're supposed to do, and what has anyone done about it to find some type of remedy, and who has remedy, what have they used, and how does it work? Well, my point being is where you want to go to for your own edification is 42action.org. That will give you a whole lot of information for you to utilize what's there for your own benefit.
I will.
I've been there. Yep. I been there. Didn't. Yeah. I was trying to find the call that I had missed, so it wasn't there. But yeah, I'll go back to that.
Well, you can sign up there and you'll be notified of the meetings. You can invite other guests, and there's all types of resources, and it's about arming yourself with knowledge. And the only way we're going to protect ourselves or know what to do is stay out of their jurisdiction and know how to do it.
Well,
I've been working on that since about April-ish. May-ish, yeah. With other calls. I'm actually enjoying studying the law. I've never, ever in my life found it interesting. In fact, it was quite the opposite. It was like I would run the other way, anything to do with attorneys, judges, courts, cops, lawyers. Now I'm interested. I do it every night.
That's great. That's great. And anything you can bring to the table that you've learned and utilized, again, that's why we're here, to see what we can do to support one another in various issues. And it is blatant of the government is being blatant, right, smack you right in the face, right in front of you, without blinking an eye, and don't care about any of us. They only care about who's funding them, which is us, and the imposters who's being paid to do what they do illegally. And it's follow the money. I guess that's what we can say. Just follow the money. In my particular case, it's a colleague said to me, because my deal happened to be with the Isle of Capri, a casino, and through this nonsense that all this happened, all this corruption, that these crimes that were committed, to protect myself and going to these government agencies, and everyone turning, looking the other way, and dropping the soap, and I'm not here. For a colleague says to me, he says, "Here's what you got to figure out, Dave." He says, "Let me ask you a question. How much money does a casino have?" Well, untold millions. Okay, now how much do you have? And that's the bottom line. That's what's going on in this country. And nobody should be able to pay their way out behind the back door, no matter who they are. Especially when the evidence is proven, is on record, without a doubt, cannot be refuted by anyone, and the criminal element that's been sitting there has still been there. Going back to Dan, talking to a gentleman last night, Dan, he says, if you don't have an affidavit, you have nothing. I've gone through all these processes, and I've never filed an affidavit. So I'm going to see what I can do to go back to square one. And, I got a document here, get my eyeballs on it. the event and file an affidavit, send letters, file a complaint, the answer, discovery. I don't know what that word is. I guess maybe that's going into court, and then an answer. No, that's not going to court. That's, I'm not sure what MSJ is. Chris, maybe you know.
Sure. Discoveries where you have the other side give you the information they have that they're going to use against you and tell you what witnesses are going to call against you, and you have to also provide specific information to them. The affidavits, unless you have an affidavit recorded, notarized, certified, sealed, it probably isn't going to be accepted into evidence, because unless you're there to testify to the affidavit, then it's mere hearsay. Many people don't cognize that, but that's the fact. So if you don't have either two witnesses to autograph your document, that's actually more powerful than a notary. A notary is also an officer of the state, officer of the court. But I will tell you that it's very tough, because most of the courts are all private, foreign corporate courts. Some will allege that you can transmute the court to a lawful common law court, although they might tell you that, and they may pretend that, may act as if it is. That doesn't mean it actually is, because if a court is not of record, you can't make it of record. You can make your own record. You can have your own court reporter there. You can have your own notary there who can take recordings of what goes on. You can purchase a copy of the transcript or the audio or video, but likely the court is going to use its judicial prerogative and edit out, redact, tamper with evidence. And that, when they tamper with evidence and remove it, if you can detect it or you've got proof of it that contradicts what their version is, then their record becomes, if it's a court of record anyway, probably isn't, their business records. They'll tell you it's a court of record. Well, they're a court of business records. They're private commercial business records. That's all they are. That is not a court of record in a court of law by any means. And so it's like whenever an officer gives you a citation, that's a mere business record. That's not an affidavit. It's not made under oath under fear of pain or penalties of perjury. It's a mere commercial instrument, offered a contract. When you sign that, you are agreeing to contract and to appear and be charged under that document because you don't know. And that's what we're on this call about, is we're trying to enlighten one another, to share knowledge, facts, law, and evidence, and the law support it. Hosea 4:6. Hosea 4:6 says, "My people are destroyed for lack of knowledge." So we're trying to ameliorate or amend or correct that situation by sharing knowledge and information amongst one another. But we really live in a very dangerous time because we truly are in a virtual lawless society. There may be a few opportunities in the higher level courts using the proper language and procedures to access the court of the people that they keep hidden away very cautiously. Very few people understand the difference between the U.S. district courts and the district courts of the U.S.
Could you explain that?
The Article 3 General Justice Courts, staffed with lawful justices, enjoying life tenured appointments at the hand and seal of the President, with assent by the Congress and the Senate, enjoy compensations not diminished under good behavior. Those words are directly from the Constitution. Are the only true lawful judges. Most of them are magistrates, stratified as magic men. That's what magistrate means. Magi and stratify. That's where the word comes from. So they're classified as a God man. They sit in these satanic courts and are actors on a stage, acting like they have some power and authority when all they have is a fiction of power and authority. But if they can dupe you into believing it, then they have it. If you believe is so, you don't have, your jurisdiction is not above or below theirs, yours is without theirs. It's foreign to you. It's foreign jurisdiction. There's a notice to foreign law. There's a Foreign Sovereign Immunities Act that those who are knowledgeable and competent can employ. But you're Americans, not United States citizens, not 14th Amendment subject slave citizens. There's a couple of guys on the morning shows on RepublicBroadcastingNetwork.com. It comes on at 8 o'clock Pacific time. You'll have to look at your own time schedules and adjust for the translation. I'm guessing it's 2 or 3 hours ahead, depending on where you're at in the country. Thomas Lacavera and Bruce G. Riggs, I think it is. And they both have long lines of barred esquire attorneys in their bloodline. Their father, one of them's father was a judge for 40 years. The other one's father was a prosecutor. They have founding fathers' blood in their strings. And they are not part of the bar, and they have great trepidation with it. And they're trying to figure out a way to roll back and do away with the Reconstruction Acts of government, particularly the 14th Amendment, which, of course, has been declared unconstitutional. It was never lawfully enacted. There was never a two-thirds majority of the states because several states have gone away. It was put in at the points of guns by de facto by force of law, with military agents being placed in the seats of lawfully qualified elected representatives of the people of the southern state and other states like New Jersey, who were forced out of their seats at gunpoint. Military officers were placed there instead to pass these reformation of government acts, the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendments. Of course, they burned down the original White House in Pennsylvania to get rid of the original Title of Nobility Act, the original 13th Amendment, which precludes any barred licensed esquire attorneys or titles of nobility, that's what it's called, Titles of Nobility Act, from holding office or positions of authority. There is no law that gives any authorization for the position of an attorney or a lawyer. It's a private foreign organization. It's not even a corporation. It's an association. The bar, the British Admiralty Registry or British Archons, the Terns, if you like, agency. And they have taken over the legal system in this country, and therefore we're living in a lawless legal society where we only have the appearance of justice and fairness in these criminal cabalistic courts.
Yeah, this is Lonnie from New Mexico. Hey, Lonnie. Hi. Got a question. I would love to get an outline of what you just said. Because you just hit me with so much stuff, my head is spinning.
Well, Lonnie, it's not, our public, simple, controlled, Soviet-style Department of Education or re-education or indoctrination programming system has not prepared us at all or educated us. They've de-educated us and fed us a bunch of crap and told us it was education. They would pay money under false pretenses. Getting control of the education.
I agree with you. You know what? Is Randy on this call?
She normally is, but she has a seminar that she's doing tonight, so she's turned the care of the call over to a couple of her associates and friends, and Dan DARET, and
Dave. Okay, I had a question. On Saturday, on Waking Up in America, she was talking about a promissory note that is connected to a bank account that is a number on the back of your Social Security card.
That's your TIN, your taxpayer identification number.
No, it's not the. Are you talking about the Social Security number?
No, I'm talking on the one on the back of the card.
Okay, so it's different from the Social.
It has some differences from the Social. It may have it incorporated or encrypted or parts of it in the TIN number. But there's also what's called a CUSIP account. There is a name set up in your birth certificate.
Right.
Certificate is license or a bond, or could be a monetary account that's set up in your name under the certificate. When you're birthed into the state, before your feet hit the ground, takes the prints from your foot, sends it to the Bureau of Vital Statistics, keeper of records in your state. The hospital receives a reimbursement for sending that, significant. The state sends it to the Department of Health and Human Services. Of course, you're assigned a socialist slavery number, a accounting number, a bill of lading invoice for your delivery.
Wow.
And so whenever that's created, in the all-caps fictitious name, they actually create two birth certificates. They give you a certificate of live birth, which is like your certificate of title. It's mere evidence of birth or evidence of title. It's not the true title. The true title is sent to the Department of Health and Human Services, then to the Treasury, then to the IMF, the International Monetary Fund, where it's securitized and monetized into private trust accounts around the world banks by the World Banking Elite. And you're monetized for the expected output of you as a human resource in the amount of $1.8 million, and it earns interest for your life on the expected outpouring of your fruits of your labor and the taxes you will pay in on a life expectation. Therefore, they monetize it just like they do the houses, and they take multiples of what your outcome is and use it for their own private demonic purposes. Unless you can find it out, and sometimes you can find your account number of your CUSIP or your Treasury depository account, depository thrift account. There's a number of different names, and they hide them in all sorts of places. Kelby Smith says it's called the In God We Trust account. And I haven't researched that out, but he's a pretty savvy guy, so he probably knows some of what he's talking about, I expect, in relation to that. That's the hisadvocates.org, Kelby Smith, formerly from the Fred and Nina We Study Law Group, and also with the Restore Republic producer plan. So it is true, there is an account somewhere out there that has your all-caps fictitious corporate trade name, your nom de guerre, name of war, where they are committing war against you as an enemy combatant all your life. Because commerce means of, from, by, or with war. Merc, M-E-R-C, relates to mercenary or war. Mercury, the planet, war planet, demon for the death planet. And so whenever you understand these things, it can be very discouraging and upsetting, because we've all been deceived most of our lives unless you've awakened and started studying on your own to enlighten yourself and remove yourself from the ignorance that was heaped upon us by the educational facilities under the Communist Manifesto.
So Randy was saying on Saturday that you can go to Office Max, get some paper that normally looks like paper that you would use to write a check on, and try to access that account as I guess it's a promissory note under the Bill of Exchange Law of 1882.
I think I'll yield to one of you other people who may have listened to that call that can speak to his questions. I didn't hear that call. I know a little bit about the promissory note and other financial instruments.
Right. Randy was saying that you could pay if you can access the account with that number on the back of the Social Security card, that you can pay, write checks on it or promissory notes and pay taxes, property taxes, income taxes, and evidently people have been successful in the de facto government accepting those instruments.
Well, those are set-offs, discharges of debt using electronic wire funds, one-way wire transfer instruments, and other security exchange instruments can be transmitted electronically, electrons flying through the air. And so there are provisos to do that are provided by law. But you have to be very critically strict about how you put these documents together, who they're sent to. There's two different offices of the Treasury in this country, and one's in the District of Criminals and the other's in Puerto Rico.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
What's it doing in Puerto Rico?
Well, it's a foreign corporation. Puerto Rico is a territory of the U.S.
Right.
Of course, it means rich port, Puerto Rico. And you might notice it's a similar sounding name to the RICO statutes, the Racketeering and Influence Corporations.
Huh.
That's titled 1961. Because the IRS and the Federal Reserve are privately owned foreign corporations owned by the Rothschild banking empire with limited amounts of stockholders that are not open for public investment. And they're tied directly to the International Monetary Fund, the World Bank. Karen Houdes has been making some pretty interesting revelations about some of these secret trust accounts.
Who was that?
Karen Houdes, she was a former attorney for the World Bank.
Karen, how do you spell the last name?
H-U-D-E-S.
Okay. So can you Google her and get information on her, or?
Yes. Randy's been sending some information out, I think, about Karen Houdes' appearances recently. But I get it from multiple different locations, and I'm almost sure Randy's on her site, but I'm not positive. But you can just Google Karen Houdes' recent revelations or World Bank, let's see, what is it called? Whistleblower.
Okay.
Type in Karen Houdes whistleblower. That'll get it for you.
Gotcha. Yeah, Randy was saying she was going to put something on the 42 Action website about the promissory note. So basically people could get a look at it, because I guess it's a fairly new concept for her.
Well, it's a whole different set of concepts. And I happen to have a copy of, let me go away from the phone for 1 second. Let me tell you what the exact name of it is.
I'm going to interject a little bit here. My name is Mark, and there is information out there on promissory notes. There's a lot to them, but once my whole thing is trying to figure this out, and that's what I've been trying to do. I've used EFTs, discharged debt that way. The promissory note is the one that I really want to find out about as far as the information. I know there's a certain stamp you can get from a bank that also helps with your promissory note. So I wish I had heard that call too last week, but I also missed it.
Well, it should be available for a replay. The book I was going to look at for you is called Security, Interest, and Personal Property Cases and Problems Materials. There's also the UCC, which oversees in 3, 5, and maybe 6 and 8 the issuance of security instruments, promissory notes, deeds of trust, all manner and forms of financial instruments, vessels, conveyances. But these are the laws that operate on these things. I again suggest to all of you that I am a frequent shopper at Goodwill, where on Wednesdays they have Senior Wednesday and they give you half off of almost everything in the store. And that's where I get an awful lot of my law books from. But it takes me quite a bit of very deep, introspective, critical looking to find these things. But, you know, I've got case law and credit collection law, and I've got Crudstein courts and the law governing lawyers. These are books that tell me things like the law of rhetoric that the lawyers practice habitually, daily, in and out, almost all the time, which states that one must lie in order to speak the truth. That's how insane and delusional these maniacs are.
The law of rhetoric?
Rhetoric, R-H-E-T-O-R-I-C, by Jean-Paul Sartre, S-A-R-T-E.
Huh. Okay.
In the Federal Rules of Evidence, it says specifically that the judges are only required to give you the appearance of justice and fairness. Well, that tells you you're in a foreign law court. It's not American law, and the common law, the Creator's law, whereby truth, law, fact, and evidence rules supreme, and the jury is supposed to determine on facts, law, and evidence on guilt or innocence, and the judge is supposed to be a mere independent third-party, non-conflicted arbiter. But when they're all bar-licensed mercenaries masquerading as law merchants, you're the only poor sucker in the whole court that's not getting paid for being there. Maybe some witnesses in the gallery.
So you're saying the U.S. District Court is a satanic court and a magistrate is a true court?
No. What I said are the United States District Courts are ancient Roman civil courts. Some call them admiralty. I would call them a tribal, three heads of ball court. But they're mixed forms of jurisdiction called administrative law courts. Administrative law is commercial law. Commercial law is the law of war, the Lieber Code. And that's not an American law court. It's a foreign court that's overlaid and taken over the justice system in this country. There is a bar requirement, pardon me for the dogs barking, a bar requirement for all judges, including the Supreme Court. That's an absolute abomination to the Founder's plan and the Creator's plan, all formally separated, independent, sovereign, autonomous offices of government, a three-branch system, the judicial, legislative, and enforcement branch, have been assimilated. That was a weak link in the chains of the Constitution that Jefferson so wisely observed whenever the POTUS was able to appoint his political cronies or agents provocateurs into the Supreme Court, highest court in the land, and thereby put political activists in the courts instead of fair and just, moral, and scrupulous men. And that's where we're at today.
Okay, so forgive my ignorance, are there any courts in the United States that are true courts?
Well, I still maintain, and I can only testify this because I was able to seek and find remedy, is the Article 3 General Justice Courts. They're termed the District Courts of the U.S., not the United States District Courts. There's a small d, small c. They are the lawful courts of justice of the land. You'll not find them listed anywhere. You have to go through the ex officio clerk of the U.S. District Court and petition to the Circuit Courts of Appeals in whatever your area is, and motion to move the court to the proper jurisdiction, venue, and form of law as the common law, as provided for under the jure law of the land, the 1789 Judiciary Act, the 1866 Amendment thereto, and there's other acts that go along with it. You have to put mandatory judicial notice or cognizance to law. And when you petition to this particular court, there are many lawyers that don't have a clue about this stuff, so you got to do a lot of homework to read up on this stuff. But I can tell you, when you put your paperwork together and you back your claims with facts, law, evidence, and citations, and probably 2 citations for every point of law you're making, is suggested, and you have nice clean paperwork with proper margins and spacings and pica or size of type, emboldening the headlines with a capitis maximus on the titlings of the courts and stuff. There is a cogent line of thinking behind the rules of the court as to how they ask you to format your paperwork. Because when you got 20 pages and the lines are all shoved together and there's no room to write notes between or to let your eyes separate, you'll go blind trying to read it, and they won't. They're lazy. They don't want to work. And if they have to work at it to read it, they're not going to read it. They'll throw it in the trash can. But if you build your case from the very beginning, because everything starts at the beginning, find good citations that are well-founded, black-letter, well-settled laws of the Supreme Court, you should be able to make your case. But you probably are going to wind up going to the District Circuit Courts of Appeal to a 3-judge panel and let your paperwork speak for you, unless you have a desire to become an articulate in the rules of the court, and there's a bunch of them, and the canons of ethics and the professional codes of ethics for the attorneys, so that you can confidently object and found your objection with the proper rule of the court, whether it's 702 for Federal Rules of Evidence under the Daubert analysis on the qualification of an expert, and if it has to do with a psychologist, then you want to invoke Kumo Tire Company versus Carmichael and have that pseudo-scientific black-robed witch doctor proclaiming to be a psychiatrist, psychoanalyst, or psychologist dismissed on the hearsay rule because he is nothing but a witch doctor pretending to be an expert, and it's not qualifiable as repeatable and reliable evidence that can be proven by anything, and you can't find 2 psychiatrists who agree on anything.
But, guys, not interjecting here, just sitting back and listening. And Chris, I really appreciate your vast knowledge of writing off the top of your head, knowing all these things. And what impresses me is the time you've spent to educate yourself, not only through these processes, but actually going to court and sitting back and watching what happens.
Well, it's not a place that most of us are at very frequently. And if you have a case coming up, it's certainly beneficial to sit in the witness gallery and observe these courts. Pay particularly close attention to what the prosecution says, the pro se execution, as I prefer to correctly describe it. What the defense says. Does the defense object when he's supposed to? A lot of times these lawyers are inept. They're incompetent. They shouldn't even be practicing law. If they went to law school and their daddy was a lawyer, so they got the black robe kiss on them, and so they get in there. And the judge is a barred esquire attorney, and the prosecutor is a barred esquire attorney, and the pretender defender is a barred esquire attorney, and the clerk of the court is a officer of the court. The bailiff or the jailer is a officer of the court, and the secretary, the keeper of the judge's secrets, secretary, is an officer of the court. In fact, she manages the court and keeps the judge's docket for him, tells him what cases are when. And so, when you understand that this purported system of law, or legalese, more correctly, legal sleeves, was set up to take the place of armed combat on the battlefield. So they moved it from a war of armed combat with death and blood on the battlefield to the courts purportedly of justice. Now they're just us. And what most people don't understand is when you go in there, you're actually going to war against a military force disguised as disparate parties that aren't related to one another, when they're absolutely all barred, licensed esquires, officers of the corrupt court, working against you as a military force to destroy you by any means possible. Steal you, and plunder you, and rob, rape, pillage, take everything you got if they can. I've seen them convert jurisdiction in the middle of a case, change from criminal to civil, or civil to criminal, or civil to commercial, equity, as it suits them to keep you off your toes. I've seen people locked up for agreeing with the judge. I've seen an ignorant judge. Somebody told them that they were schizotypical, and they read they were schizotypical, and they read and they thought it was, when it was read, that they were saying they were schizophrenic. And so she treated it like a schizophrenic. Did the attorney object? Hell no. Should have corrected the judge. Our judicial canons of ethics require her to maintain a continual, vigilant observation of the record and examine it and make sure that there's not any defects in there, to prevent the court from having to be overseen and overruled by a district court or a higher court, and reversed. But this is common day in and day out, habitual abuse, and no flipping law whatsoever. And whenever the judge pulls out of her posterior in these criminal cabalistic courts, especially in the district courts, or excuse me, the DCFS, Child Protective Services courts, and municipal courts, disciples of the world, the municipals.
Say, Chris.
Mm-hmm.
I just want to. There's a call starting right now on the Constitutional Club, and Jeff Ball is going to be talking about some remedies that he's trying to think of the term as a self-attorney. I'm trying to think of the word. I can't think of it. He's on a call right now on the Constitutional Club, and I'd like to give everybody that phone number I'd like to get on this call to hear what's going on. If no one minds, or if anybody has anything else to say, we'll stay here. But I want to let everybody else know about this other call on the Constitutional Club, and I want to give that phone number.
Is he pro se?
Yeah.
I've heard of Jeff Ball before. I may have spoken with him once.
He's a something attorney general, private attorney general. That's what he is.
I also am a private attorney general.
So I'd like to share that phone number on Blog Talk Radio through the Constitutional Club, and if people want to go there, you might pick up some additional information.
Well, put it out there.
It's 347-884-9499, and you can actually log in to www.blogtalkradio.com Friends of Liberty. But if you dial that number, you can just sit back and listen.
You say that was 347-884-9499?
That is correct.
Is there an access code?
No, you go right on.
All right.
So if everybody, unless anybody has anything else to say, I'd like to close tonight's call, and I appreciate everyone coming on. And, Dan, if you want to, Dan, are you there?
Yeah.
Do you want to share that website again?
Yeah, contact Randy Shannon at is it info@42action.org for email about Financial Halo, or you can go to the website www.financialhalo.com/Randy. There's also a Forex version of this as well too, but I'm sure we'll talk about it on another call. Just contact Randy at 42action.org for more information.
I will suggest that there's in the mornings on republicbroadcastingnetwork.org at 8 o'clock Pacific, which would be 3 hours, I guess, ahead or later before, it'd be like 11 o'clock and back east. They have Restore the Republic call with Tom Lacavera and Bruce G. Riggs. And I think most of you would be interested in what they have to say. They're really attacking the 14th Amendment and the fraud of the 14th Amendment, because it was never lawfully passed into substantive positive law, and therefore it's not lawful. In fact, the United States codes only apply to federal employees, not to we the people. That's on rod-class.com, and Rod is also a private attorney general if you have interest. So I don't have anything else unless somebody else wants to ask something before we ring off. I might go and listen to the Constitutional Club. I think I've listened before, and I was a little frustrated because I couldn't ask them anything or make any comments, and they were a little bit off track on a couple of things in my humble estimation. But just try to keep people out of trouble.
On the Jeff Ball call, did you have a time that's on and over?
It's on right now, and I think it goes on for like an hour.
Okay, thanks.
You bet. Anybody else have anything else?
Well, you didn't answer my question before about the Title 42 Action Lawsuit Educational Workshop. That's the last email.
What you want to do is send an email to support at 42 Action. Randy, get that information to you.
Oh, yeah? Okay.
Absolutely.
There's another call tonight. It's Thursday. It's Angela Stark on TalkShoe. I don't know who our guest is, though.
Well, listen, I thank everybody for being on this call, and it was a pleasure to fill in for Randy. I hope I at least kept the board running here, if nothing else.
You did fine.
I appreciate that, Chris. So I thank everyone for at least hearing what I've been going through, and you're welcome to take a look at what's there. And thanks. I appreciate everybody's being on the call tonight. Same thing next week. Invite your friends, invite your colleagues. Give some support to 42action.org. Like them on Twitter. Like them on Facebook. And let's get band together. Let's bring people together so we can find out how we can help ourselves. So with that being said, I'm going to close tonight's meeting, and good night, everyone.
Be blessed. Bye.
Pleasure.
How's it, pal?